Now let's get underway. Now, winning strategy. Strategy is a passion of mine. At Paradox, we are focused on marketing and innovation for accountants and business advisors. And at the end of the day, it's all about strategy. It starts with strategy. So what I'd like you to do is, as I say each of the three following, we're not going to do a full-on poll, but I'd like to get an idea of where you're at with your business and your objectives. So get ready and hover over that raise hand button. Is your firm in a position at the moment where you would like to grow the firm? Now that's not a trick question, because not everyone would like to grow their business. Secondly, click the raise hand again if rather than grow, you want to improve your business. So for example, you might not want to grow the number of staff, the number of clients, but you may want better quality. Let me just mute you, Isabel. We were just hearing your keyboard there. So some of you want to grow, some of you want to improve, but raise your hand if regardless of either of those, you would like more ease in growing your business. So whether that's growing it or improving it, you just want more ease. Because let's face it, often in business, things can seem hard. But do you ever look at other firms, these superstar firms that you read about and you see in media and who are up on stage speaking and winning awards at conferences and think, what is the difference with these firms? Why do they seem to just keep on growing and achieving? And they seem to be having fun doing it. Well, today I will share with you 3 keys that we know are common traits between these star firms. Now, this whole idea of ease, if you think it's a pipe dream, consider this little story I'd like to share with you. I don't know if any of you have ever had a combination lock. I've got one now for my bikes. All our kids have got combo locks. And when I was young, the first time I got a combination lock, I was really excited because it was cool. You know, I could protect my bicycle if I took it down the shops or whatever, and it was safe from being stolen. But have you ever had a combination lock and you've forgotten the combination? Well, this happened to me. I think I may have been about 10 years of age, and I had this combination lock, and it wasn't on the bike. I'd had it up in the house, and I can't recall if it was whether I did it or it was one of my 6 siblings, but the lock got scrambled and I'd forgotten what the combination was. So if you've got a combination lock and you want to get it open, what are your options? I thought, I could take it down to the workshop and put it in a vise and get a hammer or a screwdriver or something and use force. And that didn't stay with me long because I figured I'd ruin the lock. So clearly that was a dumb idea. And I thought, okay, there are 4 barrels. All I need to do is to go through the 10,000 combinations, like starting at 0000, pull it, does it open? No. Click it to 1, pull it, does it open? No. And I thought, oh, I don't want to lose this combo lock. I'll go through all 10,000 options. If there's one thing that I am, it's persistent. And so I started to do it, and I got to a point where I could do it without looking. So I do it while I was watching sport, watching television, and I just go click, pull. Now, when I pulled at the lock, do you think the key was force? Would there be a combination that was kind of right? And if I just pulled harder, like if I had 3 of the 4 right, the harder I pulled, then the more likely the lock would open. Of course not. Once you go click, 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 and I can still remember it was late at night. It was on the tail end of, you know, the Sunday night movie, back in the days when people used to watch movies on television and put up with all those ads. And I went click, 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 bam. And it just opened, and it opened with ease. I was wrapped with that. I then recorded the combination lock so I wouldn't forget it again. But having that combination means that you can actually do things with ease. Things don't have to be hard. Things don't have to require force. And the same with your business. If we look at some of the firms, and I've had the privilege over the last, well, let's say 8 years in Paradox, but overall 25 years, I've been working with accounting and advisory firms, technology firms. I've been a startup entrepreneur in software businesses, consulting businesses, medical device businesses. And As Jim Rohn would always say, the American speaker, he just oozes wisdom, Jim Rohn, that's R-O-H-N. One of his favorite sayings was, success leaves clues. So there are these combinations. You can go click, 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 and things open, things become easier. So if we look at some of the firms that we've worked with in recent years, in 2012, we started working with GrowthWise a year earlier when Steph Hines, the founder of GrowthWise, which is based in Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia, she saw me speak at a technology conference on 25 cloud-based marketing apps your business should be using. She came up to me afterwards, I'll never forget it. She said, that was brilliant. She was pretty excited about what we just covered because she was just starting out. But a year later, she became Xero Partner of the Year. And the key thing, the first thing that we helped Steph get right in her business was strategy. Now, strategy and marketing at the highest level answer the same questions. They're big picture strategic questions that you, as the leader or as part of the leadership group in your business, need to take responsibility for. And today we're going to look at those three keys that you must understand and that you must action to get results. So a year later, after starting with us, Steph was Xero Partner of the Year in Australia. So it's a pretty cool award to even be nominated for, let alone win it. Then the following year, Pool Group, who a multi-partner firm on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, we've worked with Pool Group and specifically with their bookkeeping focused spin-off business called Xero Books. Xero Books, that's Xero with a Z. Greg Tuckwell there, who I interviewed a month or so ago about, even though Greg has been battling cancer, it's an incredible story that he shared with us. He's been battling cancer over the last 9 months. His business has still been growing, and that's because they have a brilliant strategy in place. Change Accountants, we worked with Change Accountants from startup phase. They were a blank canvas. They didn't have a name, didn't have a logo, didn't have a website, didn't have a strategy or a message. And we helped them with all of their marketing when they got started. Change Accountants is a one-partner firm that had split away from being a two-partner firm, which is why they were a blank canvas. And they've achieved wonderful things. And most recently, and you can see an interview that I did with Tanya Titman and Rebecca White from Consolidate, who are the current Xero Partners of the Year in Australia. When they came to us, a quick little story there, they called us on the Monday morning following the Friday night dinner and awards for XeroCon. And Tanya was frustrated was part of it, but also just wanted the answers, wanted to know how they could grow, they could crack that code. And one of the things she noticed is the common thread in previous years, that Paradox was a core part of that. And she said, I want to achieve two things. I'm spending a lot of money on marketing and development, but we're not getting the results that I think we should for that investment. And by the way, we'd like to win Xero Partner of the Year. Now, at the very next XeroCon, they did, which was kind of cool. But business isn't about awards, but it's nice to pick them up along the way as you achieve. But they achieved cut through. And I'll show an example of one of the strategic elements that we help them with. So if you look through GrowthWise, Pool Group and Xero Books, Change Accountants and Consolidate, they are progressive firms and they grow almost, it seems, on autopilot. You know, we hear phrases, when you get your strategy right, you will feel and you will say to us, such as Matt Sharwood from Advise, sole partner in Bathurst, New South Wales, where he said to us a few months ago, MC, we are growing and we are not even trying. Nice. We are growing and we're not even trying. I think all of us wants to be in that position of ease in our business because you've got the click, 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 you've got the things in place that you need in your strategy, which means marketing doesn't have to be hard work. You'll get a far better cut through on all of the things that you do. Okay. You can see someone sent through a message there. Now we'll come to the questions at the end. And by the way, the firm that I just mentioned that isn't even on the screen right now, Advise, they just picked up an award at the Mind Shop National Awards for Best Achievement in the last 12 months. And I predict we're going to add Advise to this timeline within the next year or two as well. But again, it's not about awards, it's about achievement. The awards are a byproduct. So let's look at some of the things these star accounting firms have in common. Number one, they're clear on what strategy is. Now, note I did not say they are clear on what their strategy is. Upstream from that, they are clear on what strategy actually is. And strategy is not tactics. Strategy is not putting up your prices and banning write-offs and doing all these things that practice management consultants and coaches teach you. That's kind of like, some of those things are important, but to me, compared to strategy, they are like straightening deck chairs on the Titanic. The crew on the Titanic could have had all the deck chairs beautifully aligned, but that would not have affected the consequences of the strategy that they chose. We might talk about that a little further later. So number one, they understand and they're very clear on what strategy is. And then they themselves have a clear, structured strategy. And this third point's crucial. They take time out to work on their firm's strategy. There is a brilliant principle in business called slow thinking. And we all need it. If you think, okay, I'm going to block half an hour out this afternoon to work on my strategy, you're unlikely. There are different states, vibrational levels within the brain, and you can't quickly change and go into certain different layers of the brain. And slow thinking is where the breakthroughs happen. Albert Einstein, for example, he felt he was not intelligent. What he did feel, he was able to concentrate and think for extended periods. So he didn't think he was a great thinker, but he was brilliant at concentration. And in essence, what he was very good at was slow thinking, clearing from his mind all the other distractions. And at the time, he was an articled clerk within the patent system. So he wasn't even an acclaimed physicist at the time, but he had time to think and think things through. So breakthrough firms consistently take time out from their business to, as Michael Gerber, author of The E-Myth, the entrepreneurial myth, popularized, you need to work on your business, not just in it. Now, we can all say that. We all know what that means, but what does it actually look like? So to work on your business, you can't be in it at the time. And I mean that figuratively and literally. You need to separate yourself from the business, and it needs to be for an extended period of time. It can't be an hour, it can't even be half a day or even a day. You need to get away from the business and have a clear focus. There's three other keys to that, which I'll share today as well. Now, let's contrast that with non-STAR accounting firms. Well, just on the flip side, they're not clear on what strategy is. If you think, how can an accounting and business advisory firm not be clear on what strategy is? They're business advisors, for heaven's sake. I'm about to share some statistics with you that we've gathered that are surprising. So that they're not clear on what strategy is, they lack a clear structured strategy themselves, and they don't consistently take time out to work on their firm's strategy. Wonderful book that I think everyone in business should read. I think it should be taught in either years 10, 11, or 12 at school, The 4 Disciplines of Execution. And in that book, they've got a great metaphor about the operational whirlwind. So the operational whirlwind are the things that are just going to happen anyway. They're things that if they don't happen, there are going to be consequences. So if you're an accounting firm, that is managing your workflow. That's responding to client queries, making sure that your clients meet any deadlines that they have around lodgement and payment. Stuff where the proverbial will hit the fan if it doesn't happen. And we all get caught in the operational whirlwind. And what we have to do is take a step physically and mentally out of that whirlwind to get breakthroughs. You won't make breakthrough decisions and get breakthrough clarity from within the operational whirlwind. It's not possible. So when you get these things right, you really will be in that situation, and you'll love it, where you'll go click, 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 and it will open, and with ease. So 3 things now about strategy. Strategy is number 1. It's not technology. And this might seem blasphemy for some, but it's not team. The Titanic had a very good team. I'm sure they had great customer service. I'm sure they were very focused on what they were doing. But their strategy, which was influenced by an objective, and strategies and objectives are 2 different things, which we'll cover today. They had an objective that they wanted to reach port by a certain time to maximize media exposure. They then made decisions about going fast at night through an area that obviously was at risk of having fragments of icebergs in it. Bad strategy, but great team. So strategy is number one. You've got to learn the framework of strategy and then have a clear strategy, and then comes execution. But today we'll stay focused on strategy. Now, strategy has structure. The nice thing about that is that you can learn strategy. One of my beliefs in life is that if something is possible for someone else, then it's possible for you. You've just got to learn how they went from where they were when they started to where they are now and replicate it. That applies in business, in sport, in learning a musical instrument. Sure, there's that little X factor, that little ingredient in some creative endeavors, but where it comes to business and strategy, it can absolutely be taught. When Steph Hines from GrowthWise came to us, she described where she was in her business as, at the time she was one person plus two staff, that were part-time staff, who were being paid below market wages. They were going on faith, on the vision that Steph had for the firm. She'd just taken on a lease on premises that was way bigger than what they needed for where they were. And she felt paralyzed. And she went from being paralyzed to absolutely kicking it, kicking goals. Oh, look, I said, kicking ass. You can have a look at growthwise.com.au. Their value proposition is think, learn, grow, and kick ass. But language aside, you can learn it. So that's great. And there's a clear structure, and I'll share an overview of that today. And as we said, you've got to take time out. It does take slow thinking. So let's first talk about strategy being the most important thing. A great team with a bad strategy is still going to fail. But a great team will probably come up with a better strategy. Raise your hand if you've seen this movie. Feel free to type in the chat if you know what this movie is. It's a wonderful movie. I watched it again recently in the lead up to, in Australia and New Zealand, Anzac Day, which is our day of remembrance for those who've served. And it's a great movie on lots of levels. It's pretty gut-wrenching. It's very emotional. But the movie was called Saving Private Ryan. And as I watched it, I thought, it's very instructional. Let's think through. They had a mission. Now, their mission, to quote a line from the commanding officer in the movie, was find him, get him home. So Private James Ryan of Iowa, he was behind the enemy lines in France. And tragically, all of his other brothers had been killed in action. And the chain of command had realized, it was brought to their attention that Private Ryan's mother was about to get 3 telegrams on the same day, letting her know that 3 of her children, 3 of her sons, had died in battle. So they said, okay, we can't have this happen again, because a similar scenario they recalled from the past. So let's get him home. So that was their mission. Now, what was their vision? Now, bigger than that mission was their vision. So their vision was to win the war, and I suppose even bigger than that, it was to free the world from the oppression of a dictator at the time, Adolf Hitler, with what he was doing, invading countries. So that their mission and their vision were 2 separate things. And their mission was the task at hand. And they had to subordinate other things that they wanted to do and felt that they should do to that mission. And then their values. We hear it a lot in business. Put it on your website. Your mission, your vision, your values. What were their values? The image on screen right now is from a scene where Tom Hanks, who was Captain Miller, who was leading that mission, once they'd actually found Private Ryan there, played by Matt Damon on the left. And it was a great, very touching story about his reason why. And many of us have heard of Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, and it's important. But guess what? Your why is not a strategy. Your why won't actually help you win in business. If I had $1 for every person who has said to us, look, I've read Simon Sinek's Start With Why, but I'm still a bit lost. Yeah, your why is not your strategy. So the key point here is your mission, your vision, your values, crucial, all core parts of where you're headed and your culture. So I'm not saying not to have them. What I am saying is they do not constitute a strategy. Your strategy is how you will achieve your mission. Now, for some of you are thinking, especially in light of recent world events, come on, MC, the military metaphor is a bit heavy. Let's flip it over to sport And sport being the substitute on this tribal planet that we live on for one tribe to assert superiority over another without bloodshed, usually. So in sport, your strategy is how you win. And a superior strategy can beat a team that might have superior talent. So a great strategy pretty much means it's not a level playing field. You've got an advantage over your opposition. And key elements of strategy is clearly play to your strengths. Don't work on shoring up your weaknesses, and don't play to your opposition's strengths. You need to formulate your own strategy for how you're going to achieve your mission in your business. And once you do, the clarity you'll have will be like the difference between day and night. It really will. Now, here comes some statistics. We do a marketing gap analysis. So if you're not yet a member of Paradox, one of the first things we do after the initial chat with you is ask you to complete a marketing gap analysis. It's a questionnaire. We then analyze it. There's a couple of questions in there. One of the questions is, how clear are you on your firm's strategy? And the answers include crystal clear, quite clear, broadly defined, not clear, or no articulated strategy. And then the very next question in the marketing gap analysis is, describe your strategy in one sentence. Now, we've had 195 firms do that in recent times. And let me share with you the findings. 11% of the firms surveyed said that they're crystal clear on their strategy. So let's round that out, 1 in 10. Then a third answered they're quite clear on their strategy. 31%, fairly similar amount, said broadly defined. 15% said not clear. And 1 in 10 people are honest, no kidding. 1 in 10 said we have, at the moment, no articulated strategy. So let's just chunk that up a little bit. Let's look at it from a different perspective. If we say, okay, for those who answered crystal or quite clear, that's 44%. And anyone who answered, oh, it's broadly defined, or it's unclear, or we don't have any, is 56%. So it's almost half-half, basically felt they had a strategy and the others didn't. And you might want to write this down. A broad strategy is not a strategy. An unclear strategy is not a strategy. Find him and bring him home. That's clearly a defined mission. And their strategy, which I won't go into now, about how they were going to go in behind enemy lines and avoid the conflict points to get to him, was their strategy. So 50-50 mix. But then what we've done is we've gone through and we've analyzed that second question where people state in a sentence their current strategy. So we then assessed, being business strategists, we assessed whether what was written in was articulated as a strategy and was clear, or they didn't really articulate a strategy. Now, 4% articulated a clear strategy and 96% did not. So I'll say that again. 4% articulated what we feel was a clear strategy and all the rest did not. Everyone else stated a mission or a vision, some sort of objective or worse. 4%. So, you know, roughly 1 in 25 firms surveyed articulated a clear strategy. Now, I don't know about you, but that should be an eyebrow-raising piece of data. And it may well be that you are in the 24 out of the 25 and you don't know it. One of my favorite phrases is, you know, a fish is the last to see water. When you're, you know, in the midst of what you're doing day to day, you're focused on serving your clients well and looking after your team and getting things done, but you may not be aware that you don't actually have a strategy the way that best practice and that we teach you is a strategy. So some examples of non-strategies that were shared in that were, we are a referral-based accountancy business that offers strategic business and financial advice and services to our clients. Great. That's a long way of saying we are an accounting firm and we get referrals. It's not a strategy, it's a description of what they do. Another one, and these are all anonymous, of course, to double turnover in 2 to 3 years by rolling out new initiatives to existing clients and gain new clients and maintain profitability at 50%. Are we talking strategy there or are we talking objectives? Clearly objectives. To be the strategic partner for our clients, that's even more amorphous and broad. That's something that people might feel good about as a strapline or a slogan for their business, but I can tell you that it wouldn't mean anything to their clients anyway, but it's certainly not a strategy. Another non-strategy, to provide a service which gives clients insightful, timely information to help them make decisions in their business. Right, okay, well, that's what you're going to do. It's not how you are going to achieve your mission. And lastly, I like this one, consistent, aggressive growth. Ooh, aggressive. That one's packed with a bit of testosterone. So I'll give you some examples, on the other hand, of winning strategies. Specialized solely on medical professionals with bookkeeping, tax, accounting, and financial planning services delivered in highly scalable ways with all clients on monthly automated retainers. So the elements there of strategy, of who you're going to target, what are you going to provide, and what is the business model. Now, there's no right or wrong with strategy, but in terms of, it's not black and white, but there are the big rocks of strategy that you need to have in place. Another one, help young growth-oriented service-based small businesses to automate and eliminate their low-value processes across their bookkeeping, management reporting, workflow, and data flows. So each of these I know are strategies of firms that are mega successful. The first one is Mediq, that's MEDIQ out of Melbourne. The second one is actually encapsulates GrowthWise's strategy. Another one, to provide a comprehensive outsourced CFO service to medium-sized businesses where we handle all their financial control processes, from bookkeeping to accounting, not tax, to management reporting, accounts receivable, accounts payable. So a large element there of strategy is stating what you will do, but importantly, stating what you won't do. So Captain Miller's group of soldiers there, they were not going to engage in battle unless they had to, unless it was related to the mission, because they had a clear mission. So here, we're not going to do tax, or we're not going to deal with small businesses, we're only going to deal with medium. So we're not being prescriptive there. So the first one is strategy is number one. If you're finding business hard now, it's probably because you don't have a strategy. So good news now, strategy has a structure and you can learn it. Now, in our upcoming masterclass that I'll give you some more details about shortly, part of what we're going to cover are the 7 big rocks of strategy. And by big rocks, we mean they need to be done first. So, publishing, doing blogging and doing videos and doing events, and doing social media, none of that is strategy. That's all message. And message without strategy is going to be a low return on investment. So if you've ever done any of that and you think, wow, we don't even know if it's working, or what is it actually trying to achieve, you're probably missing one or more of these 7 big rocks. Oh, wow. Jason shared that D-Day was yesterday. How's about that for coincidence, Jason? In relation to the D-Day landing, which the Saving Private Ryan film's opening scene is about. Number 1, target audience. Inch wide, mile deep. If you're a current member of Paradox, you will have heard this. We cover it in Module 1 of our Modern Marketing Academy. That's a phrase popularized by Herman Simon, who's a strategist, business strategist, and also pricing strategist out of Austria. And inch wide, mile deep is about defining very specific buyer personas. Again, work on your business, not in your business. Great. What does that look like? What does that mean? Same with, focus in, inch wide, mile deep. What does that actually look like in more specifics? One of the hallmarks of our advice is, we're told, is once people run through our masterclasses and the way we teach things, they go, wow, I thought I understood that before, but I now realize that what we've seen at these other conferences and junkets is pretty vague. You make it specific. So with the buyer personas, your ideal client, there's a very specific format for that. Now, on screen now is 4 buyer personas that consolidate, who are, to recap, Australia's current Accounting Zero Partner of the Year. And this came out of what they learned at Masterclass. So Tanya Titman, the founder of Consolidate, and also Rebecca White, the business development manager there, came along to a masterclass, and they had light bulbs come on for them. They didn't realize that they were scattering all of their marketing activity, their blogging, their email newsletters, and even though they had dedicated team members on staff, they were targeting, in hindsight, again, they didn't see the water they were swimming in, over 30 different target markets when they analysed their existing clients and the types of clients they felt they were happy to bring on board. They're able to focus it down on 4 specific target markets and then define it. Now at Masterclass, our masterclasses are workshops. You'll see a lot of seminars promoted as workshops, but if you're not doing something at a workshop, it's not a workshop, it's a seminar, it's a slide fest. You'll have slow thinking time, activity time, debriefing time, get feedback, share, and really leave Masterclass with greater clarity. So I won't delve into the intricacies of this now, other than to say, here's Consolidate, very switched on, successful firm already. This one big rock within their marketing strategy enabled them to go from feeling frustrated with their marketing activities to really getting traction and cut through. And 2 weekends ago, by the way, I spoke at the CPA Public Practice Conference in Lorne, Victoria, Southern Australia, for those of you in the United States and UK. And Tanya Titman was speaking at that conference too, and we caught up with her and her husband Jason, had a great chat over dinner. And she asked about the next masterclass, and I said, it's coming up on July 10, 11, and it's on strategy. And I said to Tanya, well, part of it, you guys have got nailed part of the 7, some of the 7 big rocks. You may not find it relevant. She went, oh no, we're coming because you can always get more focused. You can always delve deeper, and we want to revisit our buyer personas. So that really impressed me as someone that doesn't just rest on their laurels and go, yeah, we've done that, move on. They want to come to Masterclass to revisit and hone it further. So that's the first big rock. The next big rock is positioning. So once you define who you want to attract, you need to decide, and it is just a decision, how do you want to be perceived by them? Who do you want to be to them? Because you cannot be all things to all people. You cannot be a generalist and stand out in the marketplace. They have never built a hall of fame to a generalist. The most famous footballers, pick your football code, any code, over the years, have not been utility players that spread themselves around different positions. They have always been in specialist positions. So part of that, forget differentiation, forget unique selling propositions. Differentiation as a strategy is fundamentally flawed as an accounting firm, because differentiation is about truly being different. And the last time I looked, accounting firms are drawing from same labor pool, using similar tools. Their business models tend to be the same, and they're doing business in roughly the same ways. They're not actually differentiated. And saying you're different, more caring, more professional, more experienced, better than these guys, we're the best, blah, blah, blah. It's untrue, and it's not believed quite rightly, and it just gets ignored. So positioning is not saying you're the best. It's saying, hey, we're over here. Brilliant book, Blue Ocean Strategy, talks about and uses a great metaphor of don't be thrashing about in the bloodied waters of competition where you're targeting the small business market along with thousands of other firms just like you. And you're claiming all those usual motherhood chest-beating statements just like the rest of them. So get out of that bloodied water of competition and move to a calm, lovely piece of blue ocean where you're the only one. And you can splash about and have a wonderful time out there. But positioning has a structure to it as well. And we'll step you through exercises about how to understand your firm's current positioning, because it might be something that you're unaware of right now in terms of your current positioning. So again, positioning is a position in the market's mind, your client's mind and your prospective client's mind. Al Reese and Jack Trout wrote a great book about positioning years ago. And fundamentally, it's a core part of strategy. So perceptual maps are something that I learned when I did my MBA in new venture management, entrepreneurship. And a perceptual map is 2 axes with 2 continuums. There are a range that you can use, but let's say, as an example, one continuum on the y-axis there, are you a specialist firm renowned for specializing in certain types of clients or services, or are you a generalist? And again, are you a budget provider, or are you a premium provider? Because you can't be both. You can't be specialist and a generalist. You can't be budget and premium. So the way a perceptual map works is, depending on your market share, the size of your firm, the center of the circle is your positioning, and then the size of the circle is your market share. And where are you? Where are you positioned in the market's mind? You don't want to be where all the other firms are. You want to have that patch of blue ocean. So we'll teach you, based on your buyer personas that you'll get crystal clear on, your desired positioning. Next, designing your business model. So business model is not talked about enough. There are so many assumptions in business, like even the advice about how to manage write-offs. There's an assumption in there that your business model has write-offs. My view is your business model should not even have write-offs. Like, they don't exist when you price on value. We're not saying throw out your timesheets, and we won't go down that rabbit warren right now. But your business model are fundamental questions about how will you price? How will you deliver? What are you selling? Are you selling time? Tick, 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 tick. You know, here's the enemy of you and growing is when one of your clients thinks, yeah, I'm thinking about buying this, or investing this, selling this, doing that, hiring this person. And they hear tick, 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 tick. And then they don't call you because they think you're selling time and they don't want to be hit with a bill later. So there is a fundamental best practice in any business. See, we don't go looking just for the high performing firms within the accounting and advisory business. We look at technology firms, the innovators in any space globally, and we go, isn't that interesting, the way that software business is positioning that? Because software companies and service companies are similar in many ways. You're selling the invisible. So anyway, we will show you how you can define your pricing model and your revenue model and look at scalability. Because if you can't scale it, don't sell it. Which leads on to the next big rock that we'll teach you, is designing your service mix. Wow, your service mix. How many named services, if you could name them and price them, and if you're using a tool like Practice Ignition, you've got to actually enter that into the back end, all of your services, and whether they're fixed or agreed pricing or whether they're variable pricing, but you need to design that mix. And a mistake that firms make is, and they've received some really bad advice from business coaches and some franchises that were selling bolt-on business coaching franchises, where you go from being stuck in this compliance box of doing, you know, the typical compliance and historical accounting, and jumping to the top of the value pyramid that we call it, that has 7 different layers, into strategy and innovation and trying to tell people how to run their business and giving them ideas. Man, is that hard to scale. There's a sweet spot in the middle. So based on who you're targeting, how you want to be positioned, what your business model is, there are some services that you should be providing, and there are some services that you should not be providing. So you need to have a clear strategy to stick to your bagels. That may or may not mean anything to you right now, but it's one of my favorite stories that I'll share at Masterclass, incredibly instructive, about staying focused. You don't succeed by saying yes to everything. If you're not saying no a lot to people, to potential clients, to requests for specific services, if you're saying yes to everything, you're probably not succeeding. Next, in the 7 big rocks, is to design your client value mix. So type that in, by the way, into chat, and I'll keep an eye on it here. Would you prefer fewer clients of higher value or lower value clients in higher volumes? Again, it's not a trick question, and there's no right or wrong. I know some firms that are succeeding by focusing on having lower value clients in higher volumes, and they're just really clear on who they're targeting, what they're providing, what they're not providing. But usually when we're dealing with advisory firms, they want to have fewer clients of high value for various reasons. Every relationship that you have, whether they're a $1,000 client or a $10,000, $20,000 or more client, there's still a relationship to manage. There's still emails and phone calls and expectations. So if you had a choice, unless there's a very strong strategic reason, fewer clients of high value is an easier business to run. To a point, you don't have expectations set too high. There'll be a sweet spot for you. And when you do more with your clients, getting more clients is market share. Doing more with your existing clients is what we call client share, how many services you're providing per client. And if you have a high client share of higher value clients with but fewer of them, you've got happier clients. There's a paradox for you. You know, they're paying you 2 or 3 times more, but they love you more than previously, or your lower level clients. And you find a whole lot more fun and meaning in what you do. Because I know, as an advisor myself, one of the strong reasons you got into doing what you're doing and taking the risk and putting yourself out there and starting a business is to make a difference, to do things differently to where you were previously, in previous firm, let's say. And you want to make a difference in people's lives. One of my favorite stories, I was talking to an accountant who's now retired. And at the time, he was saying, you know, I've had a wonderful career because I know I've made a huge difference in their lives. He said, when it really struck home to me was when one of my clients' daughters was being married. And when I got to the wedding, I didn't realize till I went to the seating allocation little board, and when I found my seat, that I was at the parents' table. So think about that, at the parents' table. So that is 6 people that the parents feel in their life are the closest to them. Their accountant, their business advisor, because they had helped them have a good life. They'd helped them grow their business, but not stress out, to have a business that is profitable, with good cash flow, that avoids cash flow crises when big bills, like let's say periodic tax bills come. Allow them to send their children to the schools of choice. Allow them to have medical cover and choice whenever they liked it, to travel and just have a good life. There's nothing wrong with money. Money's a tool. And you know, if you had a choice between having less or having more, most of us would say more unless you've already got plenty. But it's a bit like oxygen. We all need a certain amount. And you can help your clients have not just a more prosperous life, but a less stressful one. So part of designing your client value mix is deciding what a small, medium, and large client will be. Because there are times when a client will be too large. Clients will outgrow you and you'll think, you need someone else now. And that's great. And they will thank you for that in the years to come, if that's the case. So once you've designed your client value mix, and by the way, client value mix, we have a great worksheet that we run through called, I think it's great, people love it, it's called Who's Who in the Zoo. And we use a metaphor of different sized animals. And the annualized client fee that you want to have as a large, medium, small client utterly affects the positioning that you should pursue, the sorts of team members that you should hire and not hire, the look and feel of your branding, how your message and your content on your website, blogging, email newsletters, social media events should all be articulated, the tone of them, crucial. Next, designing your pricing and packaging. There's been a big trend in recent years of putting these packages about, you know, silver, gold, platinum, or words to that effect. And that can work well, but it's not a required way of going about it. And what I've seen more times than not is firms have inadvertently created what Seth Godin calls a race to the bottom. A race to the bottom is a race that you don't want to win. And that's one where firms have unwittingly educated consumers to shop around. So if you have pricing packages, service packages, where in the rows you have things like, oh, this package will, you know, will reconcile 50 transactions a month, and this one will do 100. Well done. You've just taught them to go shopping around on that as some sort of criteria. Because when people are buying professional services, they can't kick the tires, slam the door, take it for a test drive, take it home for the weekend and see whether it's easy or hard to get out of in their garage. They can't test drive it, so they're looking for clues. Now, the way most firms have done their pricing and packaging is giving them the worst types of clues, encouraging them to be price sensitive. What a race to the bottom. The good news is we can show you precisely how to fix that. You know, I've been at conferences like Zero Cons where some of the founders, like Hamish, who's no longer in the executive team at Zero, was talking about how to do it. But I was looking at it going, wow, the way it's being explained, people should not do. But hundreds and hundreds of firms have done it, and you need to stop doing it. Having said that, there are points of psychology and contrast that allows you to package things to steer your clients towards one of your value-added packages. And even if they don't buy the higher level where you're doing the future-focused advisory services, if they don't buy them, that's okay. At least if they go onto your bottom package, they're aware that they're not on your top rung. And the door is then open for future conversations. But there's an art, a science, and a structure to doing that. And we will workshop that, give you a framework, break it down into individual steps so that you can clarify. Now, if you've already got these packages in place and they're either not working or you're unsure of why they're working, we'll be able to diagnose that for you. And lastly, the 7th big rock of strategy is for each of your buyer personas, so your ideal client avatars out there that you want to attract, you need to have a conveyor belt of influence. And I'm not going to go into great depth now other than to say a conveyor belt of influence is something that in your digital marketing, on your website, with your CRM, with your social media, that knowing the psychology that people buy after 5 interactions, they tend not to buy before they've had 5 interactions with a brand. Knowing that psychology, and we show you the technology where you can build a series of baby steps, each of increasing gradient that allows you to generate inbound leads that come to you pre-educated and warm. They're not cold leads. They're not a lead that you've got at the networking breakfast, or they're not a lead that some lead generation services prospected for you out of LinkedIn. Save me. Outbound marketing is so old school. Anyone who sells you lead generation by doing spamming and lead gen, avoid it like plague. I spoke to a firm this morning who's, I was about to say wasted, no, well, their word, wasted $30,000 in the last 12 months using some of these services of appointment setting. Very unstrategic. And then when you get in front of those, they're cold. So conveyor belt influence will give you warm inbound leads. Warm inbound leads is just heaven as a business operator, because they very readily want to talk about what can you do for me and how do you work, rather than are you right for me. Your marketing machine, your conveyor belts of influence, which allow them to read things, watch things, learn things, do things, and will do that for you. And once you build a conveyor belt, it works while you sleep. It's an exciting time in business when you've got a conveyor belt. Every morning when you go to your inbox, you'll see inbound leads at some point on your conveyor belt. Now, why do I get so excited about the conveyor belts of influence? Sure, I love the tech side, but without the strategy, the tech is a waste of time. And even though, you know, we were pioneers globally, and that's a fact you can Google, we were the first people on the planet. We're a little bit ahead of time with this, but first people to talk to accountants globally about why they need to be blogging, why they need to be doing social media, using tools like Twitter, why they need to be niching. There's actually only one person on the planet that spoke in any depth about the power of niching to accountants, and that's Rick Telberg from CPA Trendline, so I know in the States. But as an advisor to the profession, Paradox was first. So we understand this stuff, but we're not peddling a piece of software to you. We're not peddling a coaching service to you. What we're doing is showing you how to use the tools, and we point you in the direction of the tools. But what you'll enjoy when you've got this in place is that inbound leads that have come off a conveyor belt of influence that you've strategically built to target a buyer persona, so a very specific ideal client, is better than a typical referral, because you cannot control the message with referrals. So when one of your existing clients says to one of their friends or contacts or colleagues, hey, you should go and see John or Jane, they're great. You don't know what they then say. They haven't put their prices up for years. Or, man, they really are, you know, they're not expensive. Or you got no idea what they're going to say. But you have 100% control of the content of your conveyor belt of influence. And that's very exciting, because people come pre-educated in the way that you want to pre-educate them. So let's look at the third one now, and we'll take questions in a moment, and we'll also, I'll share with you the details on Masterclass, and we've got an offer for you to take up within half an hour of today's Masterclass that you probably want to take up if you're coming, because it'll save you a bit of cash. So working on and this slow thinking time, it requires three things. Don't have, you know, a team retreat where you've got this multifaceted agenda where you're going to talk about strategy, you're going to talk about operations, you're going to talk about culture, you're going to talk about technology, because you probably won't achieve any breakthroughs when you smatter yourself across that. That's why we're Inch Wide Mile Deep in what we do. You know, we don't talk to you about managing workflow and managing your staff and all that sort of thing, because plenty of people are generalists out there. So when you take the time out, have a very specific focus for your working on time. Have a theme to it. So if you're going to take 2 days out, have a theme. Next, have a set structure or framework to work through. You need to have a focused agenda, but you do need to have a structure to work through. Or you may find you'll just sort of flounder and revisit old conversations. You need to have some new stimulus within your leadership team to spark new thinking, which leads to the third point, is that you need to have an independent, dispassionate third party who understands the topic, who understands your industry, to actually give you guidance and direction as you make the decisions across, in the example of strategy, those 7 big rocks. Because I know myself, in a business, often it's easier to advise other businesses, I think you may have experienced this yourself, than advise your own. Again, you're the fish in the water and you just don't notice it because you're just so busy. So these three reasons, a specific focus that you're working on, a set structure or framework to work through, and independent guidance and direction is precisely why we've designed our masterclasses, our 2-day workshops, in the way that we've done them. We do 3 a year. We do one on strategy. We do one on message. Message includes the articulation of your strategy and all of your marketing content. And we do one on technology and metrics. And our next one, coming up on the 10th and 11th of July in Brisbane, Australia, bang in the middle of Brisbane to make it really easy, time efficient to get in and out of, is on strategy. And I'd like to share with you in some depth there how we are going to cover that. I'll just zoom up on this for you. So the focus is winning strategy. Strategy is how you win. Don't stop struggling. Get that combination, and really things will be easier from there. Now, 2 things that you need to know. There's a deadline coming up within half an hour of the end of this webinar to get a special offer that I'll explain shortly. But at the end of this week, at 11:45 p.m. Australian Eastern Time, so this Friday night, early bird ends. Now, early bird pricing saves you $500. That's not a small chunk of change. You can have a nice night out on $500, I'm sure. So that finishes this Friday night. So just note that early bird is worth getting. We have prices for Paradox members and we have prices for non-members. Masterclass is open for everyone. So we are going to cover those 7 rocks and more. To give you an idea of the caliber of firms that you'll be rubbing shoulders with, what you need to know is, like, for example, at the last masterclass, Steph Hines of GrowthWise said to us, I've come to every single masterclass. At that time, that was our 8th masterclass. This is our 9th, other than one when I was in America at the time. So here's someone who's smashing it. They've doubled revenue 5 years in a row, which Steph very kindly and graciously attributes to our guidance. They come to masterclass. Everyone that I showed you on that slide earlier, the 0 Partners of the Year, come to our masterclasses. So we're going to show you, how to stand out in the marketplace, how to garner that attention and stand out and stop being a Me Too firm, and allow you to really attract clients who want your advisory work. And along the way, you're going to work out, okay, I now get why our website isn't really generating a return for us. You're going to work out why you're attracting that sorts of clients that you wish you didn't have to waste your time with. And, Greg Tuckwell from Zero Books, who I mentioned earlier, he's actually become really good friends with Steph and Matt Sherwood, and they met at our masterclass. So a huge reason to come to masterclass is your peers, the people that you're going to rub shoulders with. We all need 3 things as professionals. We need education, we need implementation, and we need connection. We need that connection with our peers who are like-minded and who are growth-oriented, because we'll all be the sum total, the average of the 5 people we associate with the most in 5 years' time. So in addition to those 7 big rocks, you can see we're going to cover more than that. We'll cover what sort of growth do you want out of the 4 growth quadrants. Do you want to generate outbound? Do you want to grow existing clients, client share? Do you want to grow market share? Which of those quadrants? Because if you're not clear on it, you will flounder. So at the end of this masterclass, because it is a workshop, you will actually be doing things. You will be articulating, writing, thinking, presenting, and sharing with others. And really, it's pretty much a no bullshit approach to business advice. We're not there with any motherhood statements. We're going to show you what it takes to succeed and get to the point where you can say, wow, we're just growing month on month on month, and we're not trying, but the effort will have preceded you saying that you build it. So here's how it works. Go to practiceparadox.com.au/masterclass. And on that page, which is what I was just on, that will redirect. So it's Practice Paradox. Actually, what I'll do is I'll put that into chat right now to everyone. Actually, I'll ask Isabel. Isabel, could you send that link through to everyone right now? Let me see, all panelists. And we'll just paste that in and go there. And whenever you see one of the buttons to register now, just click the button and go through. Do understand that this is strategic. So it's for either current or future equity holders in your business, or those that are mature enough to deal with hearing dollar figures about what you'll be achieving financially in your life moving forward. It's not intended for junior staff unless you think they have that maturity and they are a key player in the strategy of your business. On that page, you'll see the agenda of what we're going to cover. Because it's on a Monday, Tuesday, you can fly in Monday morning. And you know, if you're in a capital city with direct flights into Brisbane, get a cab or get a train straight to Brisbane Central, which is right near the hotel. It's only like 100 meters away. We do it because we know this is not a junket. You're not there to kick up your heels and get drunk and play golf for a few days. There are other events we can do that. Oh, look, you can still get drunk. No, but on Monday night, we'll have a dinner together. That's an optional dinner. That's always a lot of fun. But if you wanted to, though, you could come in on Saturdays and Sunday and enjoy what Southeast Queensland calls winter, mid 20-degree temperatures, and have a nice weekend prior. Your call. So with the tickets, if you are a member, click the member option. If you are not yet a Paradox member, so you're not a subscriber to our implemented platform or our academy or any of our services, you will go for the standard tickets. So you click that button and then go through to it. We have a guarantee that we don't know of any other guarantee like this in the industry. And it's our Masterclass 9 in 90 guarantee. We're pretty damn confident to offer this. And it works like this. If within 90 days of the end of the Masterclass, you've not generated at least 9 times your ticket price in additional revenue by implementing the strategies, we'll just refund your ticket price in full. Now, if you're thinking, you know, how can we be so confident? Just have a look when you go to practiceparadox.com.au/masterclass at what people say. You know, there's Rebecca White of Consolidate. There's Steph. These were videos that we just took on our smartphone at the last Masterclass. There's Steph sharing why she comes to Masterclasses. Matt Sharwood there from Advise, who's absolutely smashing it. If you haven't heard me talk about Matt recently, very quickly, in the last 12 months, he has added $100,000 a month, so 1.2 a year, $1.2 million a year in advisory, in value-add future-focused advisory. And he's also more than tripled the average new client engagement when he gets a new client, what they used to sign up with, which used to be the bog standard stuff, and he'd hope to cross-sell and upsell later. Warning everyone, that does not work. I know a lot of people teach that, it doesn't work. And now when people come on board, they fully take on his full suite of services, which has led to that growth. So you can hear what Matt has to say about that and see information about the venue. We do it at Clifton's, which is a training venue, because you know you'll have your computer out, you'll be doing things, you'll be getting online. You're not just going to sit and watch some slides wash by. You can see where to stay, and that leads to the offer for today. Now, if within half an hour of now you book your tickets, for each person who books, we'll give you a $150 accommodation voucher per person who buys a ticket at one of these 3 venues. So either at the Adina Apartment Hotel, that's the closest one, it's right across the road, you could throw a ball and hit the venue. But just around the corner is the Sofitel, that's right above the train station you'd get in from the airport, which is very convenient, or the Hilton in the mall. If you book your accommodation at any one of those 3, we'll give you a $150 voucher off your cost of accommodation. Now that only applies if you book within the next 30 minutes. So before 1:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. But a reminder too that prices after early bird will go up by $500 a ticket. Now those prices, Matt Sharwood said to me at the last Masterclass, he goes, why is Masterclass so cheap? It should be double what it is. And I said, well, that's just part of our strategy is we're not out to premium price the events. We would prefer to have more people come into the events and rather than exclude, you know, startup firms or firms that are not in a position to pay, you know, $3,000 for the tickets. But after early bird, the normal pricing is $14.97 for members and $17.97 for non-members, but before Friday. All right, so now in wrapping up, let's just go to Q&A. What are some example strategies? So Jason, when you asked that, we ended up coming to that. And Wayne asked, is there a timetable for the next masterclass so I can mark off the dates in my calendar? I will send that out to you, and we'll let you know when the next masterclass towards the end of the year is coming, Wayne. So there you have it. That's all the questions that I can see there. Isabel, let me know if there's anything that I missed. But we would love you to join us and other progressive firms at this upcoming Winning Strategy Masterclass for accountants and advisors. You've got the 90/90 guarantee, and you will experience the difference if you've been to other conferences and coaches events that are mainly rah-rah with a little bit of non-specific advice. You'll see the marked and stark difference between the advice that we give at Paradox and what others to the profession have been providing. So join us July 10th and 11th. Look forward to seeing you there. Thank you for joining us today, and see you in Brisbane in just over a month's time. Bye for now, and remember to get your ticket order in within the next 26 minutes if you want to qualify for that $150 per person accommodation voucher off the price of your accommodation. So I'll leave this screen up for now until that offer expires in 26 minutes. Bye for now.